But the global financial crisis has really put the spotlight on the state of many companies' balance sheets, excessive overhead costs, lax cost management, and third-party spending patterns. Stakeholders and analysts demanded action, and almost every major player in the oil and gas industry today has programs underway on cost reduction, organizational redesign, and balance sheet reengineering. Now, business systems and information technology are at the very heart of these initiatives. Oil and gas players are making major investments to ensure data quality, consistency, and end-to-end visibility of financial data exists across the enterprise. Another priority is to aggregate and roll up discrete expense and cost management programs into standardized global views which enable greater decision support and compliance. Standardizing business improvement techniques such as Lean and Six Sigma is also being driven on an enterprise-wide basis and is a major area of focus. And lastly, intensified program-based approaches to third-party benchmarking, gap to potential, and intervention planning are being implemented and positioned for C-level visibility. The next trend I'd like to talk about is on priorities and focus. The definition of strategy is the prioritization of scarce resources, and almost all the major players in the oil and gas industry have well-established strategy teams. But you'd be surprised at how unfocused business operations and capital allocation had become across the industry. Changing interests, pet projects, and personal agendas have left almost all the oil and gas players with a patchwork quilt of operations and assets, not all of which are core to their business or important to their future. But with the pressure caused by the financial crisis, as well as the realization that it's truly better to do a few things well than a lot of things poorly, companies are really getting serious about prioritization and are focusing on their areas of strength. This includes geographic and functional consolidation around areas of strength in both the upstream and the downstream, as well as choosing to monetize non-performing assets or those likely never to be developed. As a consequence, 2010 has been a record year in terms of M&A activity in the oil and gas industry, with more than $287 billion of transaction value recorded by year's end due to portfolio optimization, divestment of non-core assets, and scale plays to leverage strength. Now, prioritization also means reining in and realigning technology budgets that are a mile wide and an inch deep, choosing instead to allocate R&D spend in areas of core competency and differentiation. The trend is also impacting organizational design as divesting operations and assets, as well as outsourcing non-core functions, compresses organizational structures and reduces human resource needs. Supporting this trend, there is much work being done in the business systems arena around developing better cold-eyed assessment tools and more consistent portfolio data in order to compare assets and projects on a more consistent global basis. Oil and gas companies are investing in and enhancing existing capabilities in this area in order to be able to simultaneously analyze entire portfolios of assets, ensuring that deliberate and aligned decisions are made about what to do and what not to do. Again, the key point around investment in this area is creating enterprise-wide visibility of operations and asset performance to support C-level prioritization, decision-making, and deal-doing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the trend toward increased government oversight and regulation is an impactful one and is being driven from a number of directions. This has the potential to be one of the greatest influences on the direction of the industry in the near term. Now, there's a broad-based environmental lobby that is increasing pressure on governments around the world who increasingly want to be seen as green. Also, the oil and gas industry's various missteps and various very public safety issues have reinforced the perception that without government oversight, the industry won't police itself. Last but certainly not least, With government finances at all-time lows around the world, new oil and gas regulatory fees and fines would provide a ready source of revenue for governments around the world. For example, the industry is already providing the U.S. Treasury with more than $95 million a day of rent, royalties, and bonus payments. But there are a number of initiatives underway right now that could significantly increase that number by as much as 50%. Now, all this means that the industry players are going to have to budget significantly increased human and financial resources to handle the avalanche of coordination, administration, and technical programs that come with additional environmental and operational regulations. The industry takes very seriously its responsibility of providing energy in a safe, reliable, and environmentally responsible manner, and of course sees compliance with any new regulations as part of their license to operate. Of greater concern, though, is the often bureaucratic and detailed assurance requirements that accompany any new regulations, which have the potential to launch a whole new cottage industry. All of this will be very expensive and will certainly translate directly to the bottom line, such that incremental cost of regulations and emissions will need to be carefully incorporated into any new project evaluations. Now, these new regulations and compliance programs will require extensive new management systems and IT infrastructure to operate and to maintain. New and more comprehensive programs for calculating, aggregating, and managing enterprise-wide emissions footprints are being developed and will evolve along with the regulations. New compliance and assurance systems will need to be included in financial reporting systems, and distributed intervention, remediation, and other initiatives will need to be consolidated into comprehensive programs that are managed again at the enterprise-wide level. The last trend I'd like to talk about is an intensified effort across the industry to tighten up and enhance all aspects of risk management. Now, last year's tragedy in the Gulf of Mexico raised the awareness of the world to the risk of doing what men and women in the oil and gas industry do every day. There's a sense that the existing risk management programs don't adequately quantify many of the operational and geopolitical risks that companies are exposed to both above and below ground. And there is a realization that flawed or biased programs could put an entire company at risk. As a consequence, there is a lot of work being done by industry experts to better quantify the kinds of risks that can occur, including the potential of cascade failure and the occurrence of unrelated disparate failures. Also, there is a strong push to learn from and leverage more rigorous risk management techniques from other industries, as well as adapting portfolio risk balancing techniques. On the IT and business systems front, this means adding risk-based assessments to existing decision support and management information systems. It will also require enterprise-wide roll-ups of risk profiles by class of asset and geography, and near real-time scenario planning capability for portfolio balancing. Lastly, greatly enhanced and in some cases all new risk management decision support systems are being developed for C-level and major decision makers. This includes performance risk and execution risk being included as part of a company's enterprise-wide risk calculations, so they are visible at the top of the house in near real time. So, linking the trends and challenges I've described back to the central themes of the ARC World Forum, there are 6 key takeaways I'd like to leave you with. First of all, global demand for energy is increasing, existing supplies can't keep up, and the environment continues to suffer. Second, oil and gas is going to be with us for a long time and will provide more than 50% of the world's energy well through the 21st century. Third, the competitive environment in oil and gas is getting much tougher, and a company's ability to adapt, differentiate, operate efficiently, and flawlessly execute are essential for survival. Fourth, Reliance on data, whether to manage performance, reserves, regulations, or emissions, is growing almost geometrically. Consistency, quality, cleanliness, and visibility of data are going to be essential. Fifth, the growing complexity of the operations in oil and gas and the desire to reduce risk means taking humans out of the loop wherever possible. And sixth, but certainly not least, there is a conscious effort in the industry to move toward more centralized decision-making to ensure that decisions reflect an enterprise-wide view and are risk-adjusted across the business portfolios. Now, these key takeaways highlight how critical technology and innovation are in demonstrating that the oil and gas industry can meet the enormous challenge of producing energy for the growing global economy safely, reliably, and in an environmentally responsible manner. Now, for the oil and gas industry, flawless execution and perfect performance are not just words on a page, but are in fact a strategic imperative that will determine whether individual companies or the industry as a whole can regain the public trust and a license to operate. Much of the energy infrastructure that will be needed by 2030 and will be funded by that $30 trillion I mentioned in my opening remarks has yet to be built. And there are many challenges to be overcome and many decisions to be made as part of that global build-out. There is a tremendous opportunity for the oil and gas players, policymakers, and thought leaders, as well as technology and strategy partners, including many of the people in this room, to help shape the future of the global energy system. The industry needs all the creativity, ideas, and innovation it can lay its hands on, and forums like this one, where knowledge can be shared, ideas can be proposed, and new contacts can be made, are essential to meeting the challenges of responsible oil and gas production to meet a hungry world's energy needs. Thank you very much.